live. And
All right. I just had to approve it. Yeah, it says live. I think we're good.
so, oh, well, that's not going to be the link actually, because I don't know how to dive right into that. The pre-link. Okay. Yeah, we should be good. Welcome to Collapsing with Casey here. A special interview here with a friend of mine. We'll call Stephen Anonymous. Or actually, you do have your name, but we're kind of keeping this a little bit low key because not everybody is really able to talk about this kind of stuff openly and freely, right? Because it's pretty hardcore. It's pretty heavy, right? So you have to kind of pick your battles, right?
Absolutely.
Stephen, it's really good to have you on. Welcome to Collapsing with Casey. Stephen is a moto journalist who helped me out with my newspaper when I used to publish a motocross paper, motorcycle racing newspaper for 5 years. Stephen, you were taking pictures at all the big events. Your photos were appearing on magazine covers all across. Like I'd walk in the cover and go, "Oh, that's Stephen's photo, fucking cool!" You know, I was all pumped. You're giving me stuff because you liked my rag, and you were like, "Dude, you just gave me all your photos, access to your photos, and would write stuff for me occasionally." And that was really cool, man. It's really cool to see you again and talk to you in this kind of a forum where we're talking about really heavy, real shit, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's an honor to be on your show. I haven't watched all the episodes, but I've watched a few of them, and it's definitely some raw information that, like you said, not a lot of people can even grasp the reality of what lies ahead. Whether it be a month from now or however long. I try not to anticipate it just because if you dwell on the inevitable, it's just going to consume you. So, but yeah, it's an honor to be on the show, and I was glad to help out anytime that I had the opportunity. And like you mentioned, I was published worldwide, like Australia, and I think I had some in Germany and Russia, and it was one of my favorite things. And part of the career, like knowing that I was going to be published, going to the local grocery store and just like flipping open the magazine just to see a photo that I took on location, in person right there. I would like, kind of cheesy, but I would like open a few of them and just like double page, sit them open, put them on display.
And then, I've done shit like that too, man. It's funny.
Yeah, it's just small world, I attribute all the opportunities to the internet, really, because before I got into the industry, everything was slide film, and you were probably shipping things to companies. You may never see your photo again if they didn't use it.
Right.
So the digital era definitely opened up a lot of doors, and yeah, it was a fun career for the amount of time that I had involvement with it.
Yeah, and you got to, I know being a journalist in this sport, you get to really meet and even oftentimes get to know a lot of your idols, your athletic idols,
Absolutely.
your racing heroes. So that's kind of
I mean, they say never meet your heroes or your idols, because it can really change your opinion of someone that you looked up to. So there were times where I've even since then, sorry to interrupt, but like I've photographed bands as well. And one of my favorite bands is Rise Against. And there were multiple times where I could like go and interact with the band members and meet them. But I just knew like there's also a chance that there could be a bad interaction, and to the point where it would change the way I looked at them. So I would actually avoid those interactions just for that reason.
Wow, that's incredible. I've never had anybody say that before, and it's funny that you say that, because that's actually, from me doing the opposite, is very good advice, because exactly like you say, a lot of times you meet your hero and they're not as cool as you thought.
Right.
That's funny, dude. Wow, that's so spot on, man.
Like my only interaction with my favorite band, I was shooting a show once, and the lead singer is Tim, and you know he runs all over the stage, throwing the mic around. He's high energy, and he got his microphone cable wrapped up on one of the stage lights, and I could tell he was fighting with it. And I just while shooting, you know, I reached over and unhooked his microphone cable. And mid show, he like pointed at me, thumbs up, and then continued, you know, singing. And a stagehand ran out to like assist, and I had already fixed it. And he like pushed the guy away, all pissed off. And I actually found that clip on YouTube after the show. So it was like I don't know, it was kind of a cool little memory to have captured, with it being my only interaction, like a positive thing. And then that's really my memory of interacting with my favorite band, doing my little part, helping out the show.
Fuck, that's cool as shit, dude. That's a great story. Wow. Man, so how are you doing with so I mean, you know, I almost feel like maybe I need to apologize to you for pointing you in the right direction, or the direction of all this information, right? Because it's really heavy, and you know, you are one of the few people that I met that and dealt with in when I was doing my paper in journalism, who were truly intelligent journalists that were anti-war, that saw through capitalism, that saw through the money, that you know, and really had a vision of what regular people go through, and the you know, and the lies that are perpetrated through media, which is really awesome to talk to you about, because you being a media guy, you can you can you know, you get it, right? You know exactly how like press releases are such bullshit and repeated, and
Right.
that's how the lies get repeated. And
Well, it's narrated multiple times, and it goes through, I'm sure, all the different chains of command before it finally gets released and told what you can or can't say, you know, from the corporate heads,
yeah,
the people who have the agenda.
it was only like really a couple of us, really, I think, that fully understood. Like even back then, it was only what, like about 5 corporations that owned all the media, that put out all the information. So all
Right.
of that is so filtered to really make us, you know, money-making zombies, just capitalistic zombies, right?
Yeah, just keeping the machine oiled pretty much. And you
Yeah,
know, it's
yeah,
speak up, you're like the person that's the idiot, or the, you know, you're the one that's defying authority. You know, that's just kind of, you're painted in a negative light for seeing beyond, you know, above all the bullshit. And I don't know if I've just always been like that. I I tend to question everything. I don't just take everything for face value. And
yeah,
I mean, I think my earliest memory of having that mindset would have been right after 9/11. Went over to a friend's house, and they're like, we're going to go enlist, and like, let's go to Iraq and kill all
yeah,
these
dude.
Arabs. And I'm just like, you guys realize that you don't even know the full story. Like, this just doesn't make sense. You're just
Right.
following the narrative, and, you know, just so easily uh, convinced that something is the way that it is. You don't even think to see it from the other people's eyes, or how they might be affected by it. So yeah, I've never been on board with, you know, the military industrial complex and all that comes along with it.
Dude, I really think that had 9/11 never happened, you would still be doing motor journalism, and I would still be publishing my paper, because it was like, because that's where we were when that happened, right? And
Literally, literally.
and and it was pretty much right after that that everyone went the other way. Like there was really good punk rock kind of energy coming into Moto, and you know, and that's in punk rock for people that don't understand, or and Moto people that don't understand, but that's like a freedom of expression, you know, anti anti-government, anti-authority, very
Right.
anarchy. And that's not a bad word, or those aren't bad words, and that's a good way to live, is freedom and anarchy. But instead, immediately after 9/11, right, everything just went the other way. People went crazy, pro flag waving, pro America.
Nationalism was
You know,
just like shoved down your throat, and you were like the odd man out if you weren't on board, if you weren't standing strong and proud with your hand over your heart every time they played the song that they're getting paid to play. Like it's ridiculous. Literally, like people still don't get it. They're all upset about a guy kneeling at a football game for the national anthem. At the same time, they don't realize that the military was paying those teams to put on a big charade and carry a fucking football field size flag across the field to brainwash everybody into this imperialism shit. So yeah, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if you know, like they got sued. They had to pay back a lot of that money. Like,
oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That's a good point.
but it
Yep.
gets lost. People don't highlight that. They don't even, they just
Yeah,
gloss over that. Like,
that's
oh,
just
okay.
a typo.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is, man. That's a really valid point you brought up. And going through, like, what I remember when they said, I think it was George Bush or Dick Cheney said, this is going to be a never-ending war on terror. I knew right then, dude, I'm going to see the end of the planet. I'm going to see us destroy our only home through bombing, through just capitalism and patriotism, and and it's been a horrifying time since
Yeah,
I knew it was
that's
time to shut down Practice Track, because there was no, that wasn't what Practice Track was about. Practice Track was about making fun of all that stupidity, and and the
you were
stupidity
the
won.
yeah. As soon as you spoke out, you were the outcast. You were the fool. Like you're the one that didn't love freedom. You were the freedom isn't free. Well, I mean, it is. They're telling you what to do.
Yeah,
So
man. And so, catch me up with it. So what have you been up to since doing Moto, and like kind of seeing all this progress throughout, these last 20 years or so?
uh,
What have you been up to, how are you getting along?
I've been doing all right. I have avoided the 9 to 5 job for as long as possible, just like little side hustles, whether it be reselling shoes, or I make a video game product. That's why you see the drill press behind me, and my little suit behind me that looks, like the flight suit. I make a video game product. It's right here.
Is that the headshot red
Yeah,
dot?
it's the headshot red dot.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I do. I build these little units, and I advertise on Facebook. And actually, for a while, I never even advertised them. Like people just stumbled across them, and I've sell enough to make ends meet, thankfully, because I really don't want to work for anyone other than myself.
Right.
And
Smart
so yeah,
dude, man.
keep busy with that. About the last year, I got into investing and trying to make my money work for me. And I've had, it's been really good. And then I'm not in the hole, so it's still good. At this point, any of my investments are house money, so that's going well. It's just the market is unpredictable, and at some point, the bubble is just getting massive. Like it's going to collapse at some point. So you
Yeah.
gotta know when to hold and when to fold, and not keep your money in there too long. But like I said, any money I have invested right now, it's house money. So if the market crashes tomorrow, I lose everything. It was never mine to begin with. That's the way I kind of view it. It's monopoly money until I cash it out.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny, like, it seems like, people think that, I don't remember if it was you or somebody I read today that made me laugh, said, people will be holding their credit cards, clinging to life, thinking that, the power is going to come back on, and they're going to, buy their way out of this misery or something.
it might not have been me, but yeah, it sounds like something I would say. But yeah, it's everyone just thinks that business as usual and everything, we're just going to keep trucking on. And I think a lot of people in the near future are in for a rude awakening. And I don't per se look forward to it, but at the same time, there's so many uh, just arrogant people that, right off, oh, climate change is just it's a democratic agenda. It's like, well, at some point when your house is on fire, you can't be like, well, those fucking Democrats really, really got me, that this climate change was a hoax, such a hoax that it's,
It's at
right
your
out my,
door.
yeah, it's at my door. Like at some point, you're just going to have to acknowledge whether or not you believe we caused it. You're going to have to face the reality that it's here and it's not going anywhere. And it's not
Yeah.
like, I just don't get how people don't look at the charts. They have all the years breaking down and they never really, there's no downtrend. Everything's up. It's all up. It never gets progressively lower. Even if it does tick down a little bit, the next bar is up. So, and that comes along with like the methane levels and the carbon dioxide and the heat and the sea level rise, like all of those charts, they are all, I mean, if you're into the stock market and you do trend analysis, you should be able to see that if you want to bet on this one winning, you would put all your money on it because it's gradually, actually not even gradually at this point, it's rapidly rising all across
Yeah.
the board.
Yeah, that's the exponential function, right? And
Yeah.
and there's, Guy points out, there's Guy McPherson. He's a conservation biologist. He points out there's 60. He named 60 feedback loops, self-reinforcing feedback loops. It only takes one to trigger abrupt irreversible climate change. Yet there's 60 that he names, and so many of them are already in such full swing. As we're seeing, obviously, with how rapidly the Arctic ice is melting, and I don't think people can understand or comprehend, right, that what an ice-free Arctic means for the planet, right? That's
Well, they
insane.
think it just means more water. That's all. Even if they don't realize that means no more Florida or San Francisco or Los Angeles or most of California or maybe even
Yeah,
most of the US. They just can't the magnitude of how serious and how amplified it could be and get. They just I think the reason why they downplay it so much is because no one's ever seen this. So they just think, yeah, it gets hot. It gets hot sometimes. In 1903, it was 100 degrees one time. Like it's just business as usual, and things are just going to carry on, and we're fine. Nothing's getting out of control.
right.
So
Yeah,
I think that's the mindset, and then it also goes in line with being brainwashed by your politicians, told that there's still a chance we can save this, or it's a hoax, and it doesn't exist to begin with, and it's just a money grab, which really I think it is a money grab regardless. Because it's funny because everything I hear on the news now, I see it through a filter of the apocalyptic filter that like, oh, we're doing this new infrastructure bill and they've allotted this billions or millions of dollars toward environmental preservation, and it's going to create lasting jobs, and I'm just like, if they mean lasting by like the next 2 years, sure. Like I just see everything through that lens that this could be the last of this, or this is
yeah.
just not realistic for the long term.
Well, the loss of sea ice in the Arctic would be the equivalent of like, I think it's 20 years of CO2 emissions just dropped automatically, and and the 500 gigatons of methane in the under the ice in the eastern Siberian Arctic shelf
That
is
makes
melting
carbon
heavily.
dioxide look like nothing.
Um,
People,
yeah,
go.
that's so quick. Things change so quick, and the jet stream is so off kilter that we're already seeing the floods. Like what you were talking about, because at every 1 degree that the planet rises, that's 7% more water vapor, which water vapor is also a greenhouse gas that's in the atmosphere. So yeah, that's going to, and and the hotter it gets, that's going to rain down in certain places. As you're seeing the West Coast being on fire, and here on the East Coast, we're southeast here in Georgia, man, we've been good. We've been getting rain and cool temperatures the last few
Oh
days.
yeah, it cooled
But
down here too. But then we have a bunch of severe storms on the way, which I know in the summer that's common. But
yeah,
I don't know. I just think that it's just going to get worse, really.
yeah,
And and my thing is like, I'd love to build in not a bunker, but like a house, like an earth home, so I can at least sleep in peace without knowing that I'm going to be swept away in the next tornado, because we get those here.
yep, yeah, and they're going more north now. In the last few years, and we know everything's going exponential, right? So it's going to get progressively worse very rapidly because of the exponential function. Um, how how are you dealing with the information, and like kind of like you have to mentally prepare too, right?
Yeah,
With
just I mean, to be honest, it kind of gives me peace in terms of, because I'm going through something with, like, my mother has cancer right now, and I'm also taking care of, this is like random, but I take care of a lot of it's almost like I run a shelter of all these stray cats that live on my parents' property. And I see a lot of suffering, a lot of, they get viruses, and I try to do everything I can to keep them alive, and they'll just die right there. It's pretty heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's reassuring. It's like, oh, you won't have to suffer through like what's ahead. Or with my mom, I don't know how much longer. Hopefully she lives another, as long as we're around, but at the same time, it's like we kind of all are going to meet the same fate. So I think I have a tendency to mourn before things even happen. And then it's different. I haven't always been like that either. I'm generally a pretty sentimental, emotional person, and things really, if something like this happens, it's pretty crushing. And now I'm kind of just, I don't know if it's like a desensitization, but or just like the reality that I'm going to meet the same fate that everyone else is. Like, I don't, I'm pretty, I don't know if it's just full acceptance or what it might be, but I'm not riddled with anxiety and fear, which sounds odd because it should be something that if you knew of, that you would want to be like pretty concerned about. I'm sure like in the final days, I'm not going to be just as calm as can be, but yeah, I'm taking it in stride. I try not to tell too many people about it, because I've got a best friend that I send the links to, and I probably just get to the point where if he doesn't believe it, he's just like, shut up about it. Like, if it happens, it happens, which I get that mindset too. And that's kind of maybe where I'm at. It's like, that's why I don't worry about it, because I can't do anything about it. So I'm just more of like, I'm inquisitive, so I like to learn about it. But I would just as rather, I can see why some people would just as rather be like, if that's what really is going to happen, I'll face it when it's here.
yeah,
But it kind of
yeah,
pisses me off because he just had a child, and now they have another on the way. And in my mind, I'm like, I just feel bad that you are probably going to have to be in a situation at some point that it's going to be a matter of life and death for your whole family. And then the more attachments you bring into this world, it's just going to be that much harder for you and for the things that you bring into this world. So that's where I'm like, I've never really wanted kids, because I've always thought that there's just suffering, and we're not guaranteed to be here for. No, I was actually trying to think about when I came to that conclusion. I don't know if I really got tipped when I watched The Inconvenient Truth. I don't know if that might have been a really big eye opener for me, even though just
was
didn't
good.
Al Gore, right?
Yeah,
he kind of like backtracked on all that though, right?
Yeah,
He kind
they
of
always do. Like if they went hardcore back in the day, then nowadays they're backtracking. Like Michael Mann is, and James Hansen, NASA scientist, because they're still getting paid and they
right
want the money.
the
You know,
bridges. They want to keep
so
that
they're
money.
like, yeah, we can do that. We can just turn off the fuel. There won't be fuel tomorrow at the gas station. We'll just won't run fuel
How the fuck
anymore.
are we going to get on with our lives if we all just stop driving our
And
cars?
you can just
Unless we all
switch.
live in little communities where we can bicycle to our little garden and work. Like that sounds great in theory, but it's not realistic. Then,
Yeah,
especially when it comes to like big cities, like how do people adjust to not having a car anymore? That's just not realistic. And even then, it comes back to I don't know a ton about it, but aerosol masking effect, which from what I understand, it's kind of keeping us here. So if we just stop pollution altogether, we're going to heat up anyway. So what the hell's the difference?
yeah, yep.
We're
It's
kind
a,
of damned if we don't. Is the way I
yeah,
see it.
it is a mind fuck, right? You're absolutely
Absolutely.
right. And yeah, most people don't know about the aerosol masking effect. Nobody's done more research on the uh, peer-reviewed work that's been published about global dimming and the aerosol masking effect, than Kyle McPherson. And on my first interview with him, he back in October, November of last year, he pointed out that I think it was Anders Angstrom has a paper. It goes all the way back to 1930, which is the period that he lived in, talking about how they were in Rome, the Empire of Rome, they were burning so much trash that they actually lowered the smoke, lowered the temperature of the area, for a significant period of time by a significant amount of temperature. I forget what it was. It's all on. He talks about it all in that interview, but yeah, nobody's done more research about the aerosol masking effect than Guy, and we really put it to the test most recently in September of 9/11, and he told me about this the first time I met him. We talked about that, and he said that when it was only the United States that stopped air travel, and there were, there like no shipping. There was literally no nothing for a few days, 2 or 3 days. There was no air travel other than we flew the Bin Ladens out. But other than that, there's pretty much. And I know a guy that got bit by a guy got bit by a venomous snake. I think an Eastern diamondback rattlesnake in Florida, and there was no antivenom. And they had to get because I know this dude Jeffrey Fobb, who's a Miami-Dade fireman and works on Venom One. He was able to make the call and get it approved all the way through, through the White House and everything for some anti-venom from. There was a zoo in California. I forget which area. Maybe it was San Francisco. I forget. But that zoo was able to fly anti-venom. So either way, there was almost no air traffic in the days after 9/11, and we had I think it was a +5 uh, global average or local average temperature rise here in the States because of that. So that was a very a very good test of global dimming. And
And that's on a small scale. It's not like all cars stop driving. So if
right,
we stop
yep,
cars and production plants, and
yep,
obviously it
factory
would
work
be
and
more extreme.
yeah, and I think we're also probably starting to see some of that with all the flooding. Um, the heat out west was melting power lines and cables, so they were having to do forced shutdowns, and you know, and then we know that when things really shut down, not only do we lose global dimming, but like what 450 plus or so nuclear power plants melt down and just
Yeah.
release ionizing radiation all over the
Cockroaches are going to be flourishing around these times, which I read that cockroaches can't survive above, I think it's like 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So even the cockroaches at some point are going to succumb to their fate as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, do you know what tardigrades are? Are you familiar with tardigrades?
I know that I'm familiar with the name. I don't know too much. They're
They can live in space. They're pretty much they're microscopic animals basically, but they don't really need much. And after everything that comes on after we're gone that we've brought on ourselves, they won't even survive. Tardigrades can survive in space, and they won't survive.
bigger ones need to get on all these spaceships and get the hell out of here. They need to catch a flight with Jeff Bezos and fuck whoever else is trying to get out of here.
Oh, that shit isn't that funny to watch? Just like people really think that and there's probably more of a real habitat on the moon, because I think there is a little bit of water on the moon, or there could be. There's a possibility. It's still not a habitat for humans, but if there was one place that we could like geoengineer, but that's the thing that people can't really grasp, is that money and technology can't overturn nature, right?
Yeah, it can't. It doesn't make you invincible. It's only capable of doing what it's capable of, and ceasing to exist is about the only thing.
Yeah. Definitely check out the there's a Giovanni Strona and Corey Bradshaw paper. It talks about uh, coextinctions annihilate all life on Earth, and they talk about even the tardigrades won't survive what we've done, what's coming.
Yeah.
It's pretty gnarly. And like I pointed out when he pointed out the paper, is that it's pretty rare that you see a science paper that reads like the title has annihilation in the title.
Yeah. It's going to be a wake up call for a lot of people, and it's going to be it already is too late. That's why I'm not like on a mission to inform people, because it's like, what's the point? We're all going to face the same thing, and they're probably better off than I guess you can mentally prepare, but maybe you're better off with such a short window that you're not suffering in the knowing of what lies ahead. So I was going to say, I've tried telling a couple people, like one girl, this is the problem with woke culture. Try to explain, you're interested in, I post something, you ask me a question about it, I start to explain it. I send you a couple links, you kind of shoot me down like, oh, I studied environmental studies in college, so I know. And I'm thinking, well, you were hand fed everything that they're going to feed you in college.
Right.
They're not going to tell you any of this shit in college, because then what's the point? There's no future. Here's a degree to go nowhere with it. Like,
you paid a lot of money for a piece of paper that's you think
I sent her some of Guy's information, and then I kind of explained like, oh, global dimming and the few things that I don't fully understand, but like look into these things, blue ocean event. And then she was like, well, wait, I kind of thought you were mansplaining. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm telling you information just because I happen to have a penis and I tell you something. Oh, it's not valid because you're a man. You're trying to tell me, teach me something. It's not acceptable, or it's just not, the information's not valid. So I'm like, how can you even, some of these people that are the most progressive that would be able to pick up on it, they would refuse to even learn about it because it's not coming from someone other than a man, which is pretty embarrassing. So in my defense, I went and found who is the doctor that exposed the methane, or she like studies the methane effect.
Oh yeah, Natalia Shakova.
So I sent that link.
Badass, dude.
To be like, here's a woman who'll explain it to you, and maybe you can accept that. And she didn't write back, so I don't. Clearly, she was not. She just thought, here's this crazy doomer trying to fill me with fear, and like, you asked what my thought was and where things are headed. I told you so.
Yeah,
that was
when a scientist tears up at a press conference, things are bad, right? Like that's not good news.
especially when they're not tearing up to like win an award or get paid to tell them this damning information. Like that's the whole thing. There's no incentive to telling the truth. Like,
Yeah, right.
especially if I
Yes.
get a bunch of money that I know isn't going to matter anyway. So I don't need the money.
And she's been pretty much silent since then. I think maybe she's done one interview, a small interview since then, video. I've obviously reached out to her. I'll never get a reply, but yeah, it, I still respect her work, obviously, because like you said, she's legit. She knows um she knows the Arctic as well or better than any other man on
Yeah.
this planet, I think.
But I think it just needs to come back to like this whole gender stuff. And I don't want to like downplay like gender assigning, regardless of who says something. It should not be, it should be the information that you're taking in. It should
Right.
be look right past the gender identification.
Yeah, that's
But
the realist take, right? That's how a
we're
realist would.
we're in like a crazy time where everything that doesn't matter as much is the center focus. Like you have the Britney Spears uh debacle about, her, what do you call it? Like she doesn't have freedom on her own life. And which sucks, but that's not that important to me. Like it doesn't affect me at all.
Right.
Even if I was a fan of her music, like she's never gonna make good music again anyway. All the old shit still exists. But like why be so focused on things that don't matter? And I'll catch myself the same way. Like you asked what I've been up to. I play basketball a lot. I still watch some sports. So like I still appreciate, I just watched the NBA finals. They just wrapped up last night and it was cool to see the person who won and everything. But at the same time, I'm like, it really did. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a grim way to look at it. Like, oh, like these people's life commitment to doing one thing, it doesn't matter. Like it's just pointless. But I could still appreciate the hard work that's put toward it. And
Yeah. And the talent, yeah. Yeah, that's great that you bring that up. Because that's such a good point. And that's why I think I can't pay attention to moto like I used to. I watch it on TV. Still, I try to catch every race because it's something that I've always done and enjoyed, and it takes my mind off of anything. And I still, oh, when somebody gets hurt, I'm like, fuck, I might never see that guy race again. He might be done
right,
forever. He doesn't know it. Like, oh, I'll be
right.
back next year. Fuck, dude, you don't know if you got next year.
Well, I mean, even if we have next year, do you remember how badly the pandemic disrupted everything? You almost didn't have, like, that's just a small example of how much your career can be disrupted and seem like it's meaningless. And that's
Yeah,
just a pandemic. That's something that almost is within our control. Now we're talking about a climate that we can't do anything about. Like there's literally, when it gets as bad as it's going to get, you can't just carry on and business as usual and pretend that it's not going to affect you.
yeah. Like people really, and Guy points this out too, that people they don't like to admit they're human animals. So therefore, we can outsmart ourselves out of anything with technology. We don't. Most people don't really fully understand how important habitat is, and yet we've destroyed it every day throughout our capitalistic lifestyle, right? Just
Well, they think
like,
we're dropping the bucket. There's no way we could. The world's so big. How could we? What we do to it? How could we have an impact on it? And I was wanting to say this and figure out a way I can bring it into our conversation. And this is something I've always thought. And anytime I get into an argument with someone who says humans can't have an impact on the environment, I say, well, what if we blacktop the entire globe? Which we practically are. Well, let's
yeah,
say we cut down all trees and we lay asphalt on the entire planet. You ever been on a pavement? You ever been out like in a parking lot on a hot day? Where does it feel hottest? On the blacktop. It's just radiating heat. So imagine that's just the whole planet. Now tell me that that doesn't have an effect on the earth and the environment, and then weather patterns, which I mean, a lot of people, I don't fully understand jet streams and you know, the way that it affects our climate and our weather. But some people just don't even think that stuff exists. They think it's like almost like a theory, like it's evolution. You know, it's they study it, they come up with definitions for it and a basic understanding, but that's not proven. You know, people can't even grasp like how things even exist, how they work.
Yeah, like the old Joni Mitchell song, pave paradise and put up a parking lot. We've brought that song, that one song up many times on this show, on this channel. It's insane that people don't realize their footprint. When Guy was a professor, he would have his students do their calculate their global footprint on just themselves. And we even years ago, so it's obviously worse now as population has probably almost doubled or possibly doubled since then. We're almost to 8 billion people globally. That's we are a heat engine in ourselves. We would need like 7 planets. Even back then, we would need 7 planets to maintain our lifestyle. That's just for America, just for one person in America. And that's insane. And that didn't. And again, that wasn't yesterday. That's a decade or two ago. So we've gone through so many Earths. We had a good head start because the planet was flourishing, and then we've come along, and in just a fraction of amount of time, in history, just a blink of an eye, and what we've done is incredible. And it's remarkable. It's I mean, the 1% pat themselves on the back, right?
I mean, it basically boils down to like the settlers coming over and just destroying. Like, if this was all just Native Americans and things didn't progress the way that it did, people were still worshiping like the moon and just there were trees everywhere. I don't think the environment would be on the path that it's on. I understand there's like natural cycles of this, which is true, like ice ages, but the thing is, we are definitely speeding up that process. That cycle is, probably thousands of years ahead of its time, where it would have, and it's probably, I wouldn't even say probably, it's definitely headed on a path that it wouldn't even have been on its own. Like, without humans creating all these nuclear reactors, there wouldn't be 452 nuclear reactors that need to be decommissioned. In the natural cycle of things, those reactors would have nothing to do with it. That wouldn't even be in the equation. So,
right.
But humans can't have an impact on the environment, though. So we're just too insignificant to the planet, as everybody would like to think.
Yeah, it's insane to think about. The planet is almost 4.5 billion years old, or approximately, and this is we're in the 8th mass extinction. Scientists will say the 6th. There's been 2 more found, and all these big name scientists that are so I don't know, they still say 6, and Guy is the only scientist that I'm finding that is pointing out the most recent 2. So we're at least in the 8th mass extinction of a planet that's roughly 450 billion years old. 450 million years old, and we've literally, in a couple thousand years, less than, really, because we didn't really go industrial until about 1750. In just a couple hundred years, we've dug up all the fossil fuels, burned it up in the atmosphere.
Unlike any of the others that have been extinct, or that have gone extinct, we're the only ones to have taken it to that level that we're aware of.
Yeah, there's monkeys can't do that. Nothing else. Nothing's
that destructive. Nothing's that much of a virus, and on the planet.
Yeah, like Joe Rogan's got a good joke about, basically people are a cancer and your cities are a cancer. And when you see that and you're flying overhead, you're just looking at the planet. As you get older, just become more and more cancerous, more and more cancer cells popping up all over.
It's spread.
It's not good. That you can definitely, do a little math there and kind of go, that's too much.
Yeah, this isn't going to end well. This is like we're guests, and we've turned this into ours. This was not ours to begin with, and we've imposed ourselves so heavily on it. And then obviously, I'm just as guilty. I own a pickup truck. I use fossil fuel. I'm talking to you on a phone that was, polluted to be produced. So, I'd be a hypocrite to say that I'm not part of the problem. But I mean, it is what it is. We're a product of our environment.
Yeah, yeah. And people like us, we're a 0.01, percent of the problem. I like to think, it's the 1% that are, shooting themselves up in the space for a minute on a dildo spaceship,
Yeah.
Based on slave money, slave wages on people. It's literally just
to raise a
big,
family.
it's just a big fuck you to the people, right? And through the media, it's like sold to, oh, that gives me so much hope. How exciting.
Yeah, like why? You're never gonna afford to go. And even if you did, where the fuck are you gonna go? Up to the top and then right back down? Like what is the purpose? The only thing I could think of that they would do is they would build this ship and fill it with as many non-perishable items as possible, and just when this place is going to hell, get the fuck off of here and fly endlessly until they hope they run into another galaxy that will accept them. That's the only purpose I could see of going to space, all the space exploration. There's really no, unless it's just like a notch on my belt. Like, look at me, I can go to space.
Right. Oh yeah, just like a black
Dick,
belt.
yeah,
Another
fucking
notch.
ring contest.
Yeah.
Right now, the billionaires, was it Richard Branson, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos? I might be forgetting someone else.
Yeah, they're definitely high up on the shit list for just corporate asshole
Exploitation.
elite lying. Yep, exploiting. Oh, it's really mind-boggling.
Well, I mean, but it's literally a game to them, because if you take Elon Musk, for example, he takes retail investors and just fucks with their money. He fucks with people. He tweets about Dogecoin, which is a piece of shit. I'll never buy it. I bought some just out of the sake of it. It was like, it's super cheap. I bought $48 worth. I had 8,000 of them, and I sold them when I liquidated my Robinhood portfolio. Could have had a lot more money, but it was just like, when I sold them and I cashed out and made my little bit of profit, out of principle, I didn't buy anymore, because I was like, that it's a fucking joke of cryptocurrency. And the guy who was really behind it uses it as a joke as well. Like, he will just tweet about it and it'll go up in price and everybody jumps on board and prays it'll go to $1. And then he'll shit on it. He'll shit on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin runs the whole market. So then Dogecoin falls right back down. Then you have all these people, upset that they lost their money, or still hopeful that their thousands of dollars, their life savings they sunk into Dogecoin, it's going to come back one day. It's going to recover. And it's like, you got sucked into the game. Literally, it's a game to them, and it's market manipulation. He buys a bunch of Bitcoin, talks it up, it goes up in price, and then he shit talks it, and it drops in value. And then of course he probably buys more, and then he's going to drive it right back up. And it's an example of, like, that guy has so much money and time on his hands that it doesn't matter to him. And so the little people that are losing during this whole process of him fucking with the market, that's the least of his concern. It's probably just one other little thing to pass time for him.
Yeah, he's just laughing all the way to the bank, right? So it's
What's that?
he's just lapping all the way to the bank, right?
Yeah. So it's a pretty sad times to be living in.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's good work if you can get it, and he's got it. He's
Yeah.
got it. You pull the people and they buy in. What a mess everything is. It's insane, dude. Uh, how are you so are you have you thought about like well first before I go there I want to ask about bucket list, because as you know our time is short. Have you been able to check off all your bucket list stuff, all the things that you want to like kind of get done and be able to, go, okay, I accomplished that. Happy, I'm good.
I mean, I don't have a lot of things on my bucket list. I mean, through the benefit of what I got to do in my career, the places I got to go, things I got, I got to stay at Travis Pastrana's house for 2 weeks. I got to learn how to backflip a 250cc dirt bike.
You flipped a 250,
I never landed on dirt, but I
but
mean,
you into the
to go way back, I learned how to flip BMX bikes at Ogio. And then eventually I moved to Nevada. I learned how to flip 50. I wouldn't say learn, I literally just did it. Like I never really failed at it. I flipped 50cc dirt bikes into Dustin Miller's foam pit. Off of,
awesome.
he had a ramp built right up to the pit. I did it off that, and then he had a regular freestyle ramp. I flipped that, and then I went out to Pastrana's for a couple of weeks, and it was right before the 2004 X Games where he debuted. Not he didn't debut. Chuck Carruthers was working on the Corolla, the barrel roll, the body varial.
Yep.
So that was the whole trip was
And
to
he
go
got
there
a
and
gold for that. He won
he
gold.
did. Yeah, I spent like basically that whole 2 weeks with him, and it was just an awesome experience to be part of. Kind of like feeling like you're part of a team, kind of thing.
That's
But
cool.
it was. I went to Pastrana's for 2 weeks, which was like split because at the time I had a girlfriend who was needy, so I literally went there for like a week and then drove home for a weekend and then drove right back. Which really I should have never. I should have just stayed there for 2 weeks and saved the time. But
Yeah.
right before the time that I went home, every basically was like it was foam pit sessions. That's really what all we did is I took pictures of them working on tricks going into the foam pit, and I had tried. Actually, this goes a little bit before that. I wanted to flip into his foam pit and Pastrana's foam pit, and he had a 110, and I'm like, how fast should I go? And he's like, third gear, as fast as it goes. I'm like, all right, not knowing that that's going to send me all the way to the end of his foam pit, which taking Travis Pastrana's advice, you should always dial it back a notch or two because he's taking it.
His advice is very
So I did a flip and a half on a 110, and then I tried flipping. It was either an XR 100 or XR 80, and that was kind of heavier because like a little bike is similar to a BMX bike. You can just like control it off the pole and guide it around. You can almost like muscle the bike and control.
Yeah, and shorter wheelbase too, obviously.
Yeah, lighter, shorter wheelbase, and so the weekend before I left, we were just finished. I was literally packed up and taking photos. So as soon as I was done, I was jumping in the truck to leave, and I'm like, I keep talking about I want to flip the 250, and Chuck's like, hey, if like it's about to rain, we're about to shut the foam pit down. This is your chance. So I'm like, all right. So I went, threw on a little bit of gear, put my helmet on, and I got to flip Chuck's 250 CR 250, and first time pulled it around. Like, but I under rotated it in the air, and it just felt so heavy when it was coming around. Like the other bikes, if I felt like it was gonna under rotate, I could forcefully pull it. It felt like it was just gonna get stuck where it was at in the under rotation.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I pulled the flip around and got pulled out of the pit. Did it probably 2 or 3 more times before I left.
Holy shit, dude.
One of them, my very last one, I think it was the last one, I over rotated and broke his back fender off. And, I was like, I kind of felt bad. But yeah, it was cool just to be there. And Miles Richmond, one of the former freestyle riders.
Yeah, I remember Miles. Yeah.
I think it was Miles was on the ramp or on the sitting off to the side, controlling the loading, the crane arm. Somebody
Okay.
took one of those for me. It was either Adam Jones or maybe Gary Robertson. It was one of those guys. So I had like,
Okay.
I don't have any video footage of it, but I had like sequence photos of it. So I mean, that was a really long, drawn out story. But yeah, that was like one of the things on my bucket list. So at the time, I'm like,
That's epic, dude. That's
when I
fucking
was
epic.
gonna go back in my mind, I'm like, I should do this on dirt just to like do it. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't need like the consequences of not making this happen and the injuries that could come from it. Like I was smart enough to know that this isn't necessary. I don't really need to backflip a dirt bike on the dirt. So yeah, that was definitely one of the things on my bucket list. Which that was 2004. So that's like almost 20 years ago, which is crazy to think. Because in my mind, I'm like that I can recount the story because it was so impactful on my life. I'm like, it doesn't seem like it's 2 decades ago. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's
which
dude. That's
a lot of my career feels like that. Like things don't seem that long ago, and really, it's like, man, that's like almost lifetimes ago.
yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right, man. Dude, that is insane. That is insane. Chuck helped. Clint Esposito used to live with me. I'm sure you remember Clint.
Yeah, yeah,
He lived with me for a good while, a few years. I helped find a place for him to build a little compound out here where we're at, and so he had his own place to ride and practice. And every time, every winter or every time the flow was coming through of following the tours, the Joey house was packed up, and Chuck Carruthers helped him flip. Him and Paul Smith had they painted on a wall in my kitchen, "We will not flip," you know. And then they needed money, you know.
yeah.
They were not get they needed money, and they had to learn to flip. And so uh, Chuck Carruthers helped Clint, and Clint flipped his place, and then Paul started flipping, and unfortunately he had a crash. He wound up living. He moved out to Deegan's place, Brian
Yeah.
Deegan's place, and had a crash out there. He'd done so many flips, like he knew what he was doing, but he was trying to combo, and because of that, he misjudged and landed on his head. And, didn't I don't even think he made it to the hospital, but
So, yeah.
yeah, you
That's
know, we've seen so much of that. Like when Nate was learning to flip, Nate Adams was learning to flip
yeah,
it.
it was bad. He did like a lawn dart. Just
Oh, yeah, that horrified me. It horrified me. I had just hung out with him um, a few months before. I stayed at his house, and I called him, and he called me back. I was at work when he called to let me know that he was okay, because I called him after I saw the video of him crashing at Metzger's house, and he said, "Yeah, I'm okay. I think I'm okay. I don't think anything's really broken. I'll be all right." And
amazing because that was like one of the worst crashes.
yeah, yeah, that was horrifying. I was so worried about the dude, and because he was always, him and his dad Tandy were
Yeah,
always so cool to me at the events.
yeah,
Um, and I was so yeah, I want him to do well. And when we were hanging out, when I was staying at his house in between, so Phoenix he just got on Hondas. He bought new Hondas from those old ratty Suzuki's. You remember he started out on,
yeah.
uh, and he got new Hondas, and he won the first night of Phoenix. I can't remember if he won his hometown IFMA, and I was staying because Vegas was the next weekend, so I was staying with him from Phoenix to Vegas and riding out with him to do Vegas. And we were watching like MTV. Andy Dick, he was like the host of the X Games that year and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and he was just doing pranks and stuff. And I was telling them about what my friends and I did. So we decided to go to the local Target. I grabbed a pair of Nate's crutches, and I just did a scene at Target where I just hobbled up to the door, fell down, and went into convulsions. And then the fire department came and shit. Like we were
Just created a huge need.
And I didn't mean for it to go that far. And we left. And as we're pulling out, the fire department's coming in, and this is at Target. And then like it was like literally weeks later, Nate got sponsored by
The
Target.
corporate sponsor by Target. If
I
they knew
never
his
told
involvement, he probably would have not gotten that sponsorship.
I never told anybody
That's
um,
funny.
about that story. Now, obviously, he's retired and everything, so that's safe.
Right.
But dude, we totally fucking geezed him and me and Jimmy McGuire fucking
Jimmy
geezed
was
the Target.
Jimmy was an awesome dude too. Rest in peace. That another case where like
Wait,
you said,
McGuire passed?
or not Jimmy McGuire. My bad. Not. I'm thinking of Jim McNeil.
Yeah,
My bad.
yeah,
Got your word.
yeah.
No, Jim's a good dude too. Jim McGuire. Sorry, I got mixed up on names.
No, that's all good. That's all
Gave
good.
you
So yeah,
a
I didn't hear anything about it. Jimmy is, I lost contact with him because he's a real church dude and super
Well,
into
me
the
and him,
church, and
yeah, we
as
really
they all
butted heads on the whole military stuff. Like we were just at each other's throats on Facebook, and I have no hard feelings toward him. Like that's just we're just different people in that sense. And,
yeah,
I can't force
yeah.
my views on someone and expect them to have the same outlook that I have.
I
But
know, and
yeah,
like,
aside from our differences, we've never had any beef or any issues. Like Jim's always been an awesome dude.
you remember Tony Scavo?
Yeah.
Scavo fucking blocked me about Trump even before Trump was elected. I was just like, dude, that guy's not good. And he was just
Right.
like, oh, you don't like Trump? And he's just like, you just block me
Yeah,
on
that's
Facebook.
like Trump loyalists. Some of them, like if you speak badly about their icon, they will just disown you.
It's so fucked up. What a sad, and that's a whole nother like feedback loop on how, of course, we're going extinct, right? We just,
We
we
deserve
we
it.
can't even disagree on stuff that's horrible. That's truly awful.
Yeah, you can't even see the a con man is conning you. Like, come on. Like he's flourishing. He's doing all right. He's not
Yeah,
gonna be he's really probably not upset that he's not president anymore. He's probably thankful that he lost. But he just loves hearing his name. He's just your
yeah,
token narcissist. Loves to hear his name, even if it's being hated, just loves the fact that people are talking about him.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. That is the true definition of a narcissist, right?
And in reference to like the whole political thing, I was used to be so outspoken. Like even here's the thing, people were always like, "Oh, if you don't like our country, get out of here." And this was even no matter if it was George Bush Jr., Barack Obama. Like it's not like I was some loyalist to some party and I'm speaking bad about the other party because I don't. This is not my party. Party, whatever you call it, party, the party
Party,
alignment.
yeah, party line,
I've
yeah,
always been able to call out the bullshit. Like Barack Obama's not some saint. He dropped more bombs under his watch than any other president. So, he's just
yeah,
as guilty to have blood on his hands and killing innocent children in the Middle East and families and creating more terrorism than any other president. So it's not like I was like this loyalist to one particular party. But yeah, I've always been outspoken, or used to be. And it just got to the point where I'm like, I'm tired of not only me having to defend my viewpoint or having people fighting on my Facebook comments amongst each other. I'm like, I just got to stop talking about it. So I literally it got to the point. I don't know what the breaking point was, but I went back and I didn't delete all the posts. I just hid every politically related post pertaining to Trump as far back
yeah,
as I could go back. Cause I'm like, it's just not worth it. I'm not changing anyone's mind. I'm only creating conflict.
yeah,
People are going to have their opinion and their loyalty to this guy, no matter how much proof I can provide. And even whatever proof I can provide, there's a counter narrative to make me look like I'm just, following some all good.
Hey, sorry, Stephen. You were on a roll.
All
I had,
good.
to, I had to let you go. I had to do a quick bathroom break. My apologies.
All good. Yeah, I went on a political rant right there, but yeah, I just was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm sick of like it's wearing on me. So what's the point? Like, why am I making my life a living hell out of for no like Trump already made enough people's lives a living hell, and I'm giving him like he's living rent free in my head, and I'm also I'm adding to the problem. I'm creating more division and not helping it. Like I don't think I ever changed anyone's mind. So what was the point? So and then on top of that, like people are fucking crazy. People are nuts. So like I'm not trying to get myself targeted by some, you know, mega obsessed Trumper who's gonna, run me off the road or shoot me because I don't like their icon or their idol. So yeah, I just abandoned it altogether. So really on my social media, I'm either posting about cats, sunsets, basketball, and recently I did start, I don't post it regularly. I post climate related stuff on one thing that I've already posted. So I just keep adding in the comment section. So if if they've liked it or gotten a notification, or if they've liked it or commented on it, they probably get a notification that I've added something to that post. And that's really, even beyond that, I don't want to post it all the time because it's just going to turn into arguments. And I'm not, if we have a year left or however long we have left, I'd hate to think I spent a majority of it arguing with people that aren't going to change their mind anyway. Like that's no way to spend what remaining time you have left. So that brings me to the point of like what I think maybe realizing that our time is so limited, I'm trying to make the most of it. Like I don't want to dwell and be negative all the time. And social media has that power over you because you can literally open even if it's the most positive post from a news organization or anything, you can find shitty comments that you can easily jump in on and get involved with and ruin your day. Like it's just negative energy. You have to, it plants a seed in the rest of your day. And I've I don't know where I learned it from, what it was. It's basically like when you tell somebody something negative, that's like an energy or a wavelength or whatever, a vibration that may set the rest of their day on some negative path. And then they pass it to their coworker. And then you're basically just creating a bunch of negative shit for people to be upset about. So I'd rather just go on a bike ride and look at nature and just enjoy what time I do have left. Even though that comes back to me seeing everything through an apocalyptic lens. I'll be pedaling and just thinking like, oh wow, like all this is going to be like a fiery inferno someday. Like I love all the stuff that I'm looking at, and everything's like miraculous. Like everything is a miracle. It's amazing that anything exists.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you should literally anything is a fucking miracle. So we're surrounded by those things. And it's sad that at some point most of those things are not going to exist. And it's
And most people
primarily
have always taken all that for granted. So they don't, oh, they can throw my trash anywhere. I can do
Right.
this, I can do that. We can build here, we can build there.
I can smash this fucking bug. Like I was sent you that link today where it was so weird because I saw last night. I just like watch random shit. So the guy has a channel where he like intentionally stings himself by like all these different animal bugs, and there he tells how bad it is. It shows his reaction, and it was the cicada killer, which looks just like a wasp, or it is a type of wasp, and it resembles the murder hornet. So anyway, he just basically is like, here's this video. It explains that these cicada killer bugs, they're not a threat to humans. The sting is at a level 2, and I'm sure if like you have an allergy, it could be detrimental, but they're not just like those asshole bugs that fly out of nowhere just to sting you, just to be a dick.
Yeah.
So like my friend posts like a video literally of this morning, a cicada killer burrowing right next to his sidewalk, and takes a video, and then someone in the comments is like, that's a hornet, kill it. And I'm like, no, first of all, the dude already told you what it is. It's a cicada killer. And then I tell you, like, no, it's a cicada killer. I send you the link to the video, and he's like, I kill it anyway. I'm like, Jesus, what the fuck is wrong with people?
No.
Like, it's just this entitlement. Like, I'm so high on the food chain of existence that I can kill anything, and it just doesn't matter.
That's how like people are pro-war, because we don't understand, somebody from over there, oh, they want our shit, they want to attack us. Well, then they don't deserve to live. None of them. We'll just kill them all. Just
But
nuke
yeah,
them.
our lives are, God bless America. So, like,
Yeah.
we're at the highest tier of humanity, and fuck everyone else. When really it should
Yeah.
be like, God bless the planet. God bless. And that was another point I was going to kind of bring into our topic, was God. And it's kind of like, if there is a God, I totally understand him annihilating us, because if I created this and you guys did this, you've just shit on all of my creations. You're smashing bugs because fuck bugs, and you're burning everything, and I should wipe you out. You completely took advantage of what I created. So we deserve, not that everybody was that way, but as a whole, I think there's less of us than there are of them. So, like, we all have to suffer because people are assholes. And I kind of feel like that's what validates, or what validates why things are headed where they're headed.
But I think people like you and I that see the world the way that we do are like we're a 1%, no different than the elite 1% are,
Right.
except for we're the exact, everything has an equal and opposite reaction. And I don't know how much I buy into that, but I think it's a definite when you look at the 1% and how rich they are and how much they destroy everything and they don't give a fuck. And they've got bunkers they're going to go to in the southern hemisphere, mostly um, New Zealand, because there's no nuclear power plant in New Zealand. And our friend Kevin Hester lives in New Zealand on Rakino Island, and he talks about how he's seeing literally the dump trucks digging in and emptying out, and concrete trucks coming in and pumping, and so they're rapidly building underground cities, which they have been
Right.
for a long time. But as the population has gotten so much, the 1% have grown and gotten so much more rich. There's other people who are of that lifestyle that can afford to buy, you know, even bury an underground city in places like New Zealand. It's really fascinating to kind of see all that. But yeah, I think we're the people like us who really understand and see the full spectrum, and that's a part of why I really enjoyed talking to you, Steve, because of journalism. Being a journalist yourself, even though we're sports journalists, we're not. We didn't cover you know uh, uh, political news and stuff like that, but
Right.
we kind of got a good grasp on censorship and what sells, you know, and what makes money, and just the whole idea of Hollywood and and journalism, and what makes for how the news is basically able to just fool people, no different than Nazi Germany back in the day, any kind of
Right.
empire,
Well, if you tell a lie enough that it becomes the truth,
right?
basically,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
death
yeah,
of our society. It's just where things are headed.
yeah. Like we have people that are like 5 million people are dying of just basically climate, climate change. The, there's the news is going to spin it in that immigration and people on the move and illegal immigrants, and it's and then people they're gonna be bought and sold on, we gotta hate those people. They're coming to take our jobs, right?
Right. They're coming to take our jobs we don't want to do anyway.
Yeah, exactly. They're coming to take our jobs. They're the Native Americans and we were the immigrants.
right?
That like all
Or
of that
like the
is
war on terror, and it's like, well, we fly little drones and blow up families. Why wouldn't they hate us? And then
yeah,
why would we not do that? Because that's a great business to be in. Like the more bombs we drop, the more we have to make, and then my company makes more money when I make more bombs. And as long as we create more enemies, we can keep making bombs and keep using them. So
yeah, it's capitalism. It's pure. That's the definition of capitalism, and how you know living infinitely on a finite planet is not, it's not going to end well, right?
no, it's not.
And it's going to be an abrupt when we overshot so much.
I mean, like I said it, I think I mentioned to you before, is this unfortunate is that this is looming and this is on the way where things are headed. It's
Yeah,
pretty it's pretty remarkable a thing to be part of, like all the
yeah,
different things you could live through. Like some people lived through World War II and saw this, and some people saw the age of technology. Some people saw almost all of it. You know, people like my dad, he's 80, he saw quite a bit, quite a few changes, and he may even get to see the end of the world. So he saw, fortunately for him, he got to live like a full life through it. Unfortunately for a lot of people, they're being born into this today, and they may only live to be 2 years old, and they don't have that luxury of getting a full life.
yeah. That's fucked up, and that's really disgusting to think about people still bringing kids in and just completely ignoring the fact, like not even just this year, but at any point in recent history, and even my lifetime, our lifetime, that it, it's it doesn't it feel kind of crowded here, and like getting to work takes a long time, and we
Right.
kind of have to deal with a lot of traffic, and that's a waste of
It's not
time. And
sustainable. It's just not sustainable. And then you have impoverished families having just multiple kids, and sometimes for the sake of getting a bigger check and relying on that check from the government to afford their lifestyle. And at some point, it's going to be, I mean, I just can't imagine having like 6 kids and living off the government and then having the government collapse and then having like this giant family that's starving. And there is like an unlimited amount of variables and outcomes that are, they're undeniable. They're what lies ahead. That
yeah,
I'm fortunate enough to not even have. I could be selfish and just not even think about it and not even consider it, because I'm not gonna have to face those kind of things. But I'm empathetic enough to like to have to think that's what they're gonna have to deal with, and that's pretty heavy. It's unfortunate, and not that I can't blame them, because a lot of them don't even know that that's what's coming. But at the same time, even if you told them flat out that's what's coming, most would probably just say you're nuts. Like that's not even
yeah,
possible.
yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if I should should I feel even sympathetic for those people at this point, or I don't. I can't even put into words really like the magnitude and the size of like how big the problem is and how catastrophic everything is going to be.
I think it's ignorance, and we too often give a pass to people for ignorance. So so it's like it's I'm like shouting at the top of the buildings, how can you not know your house is on fire? But yeah, like you said, you can tell them and they'll go, that's over there. My house isn't on fire. I'm fine. I'm
Or
gonna,
it's like wildfires happen all the time. Like that's just
yeah,
natural disasters happen, but it's like they are getting progressively worse. Wildfire season's supposed to be at the end of September. They started in what, early June?
yeah.
Next
And
year it'll be starting in March. I mean, if there is a next year, like if the methane pockets, burp, and all of a sudden it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit hotter outside than it normally is. So instead of today being 80 degrees, it's 150 degrees. So a lot of people are just like, but it'll be a cycle. Even
It'll
if it's 100,
balance stuff out.
yeah, you know.
AC works. It'll cool me down.
But at the same time, it's like, well, let's go back to those charts. They all go up. They don't gradually go down.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
It's heavy, dude. It's so heavy. And yeah, people they won't deal. People are not dealing with the fact that that yeah, it's going straight up exponentially. And like you pointed out, the fires on on the West Coast, the if you add up all the previous history of fires on the east on the West Coast, they don't equal
They
to, you
probably
can
not
add up
one of them.
all the previous, and that's a form of exponential change, right? When you can add up
Right.
all the previous history and go, ooh, even those fires don't equate to this year's fires, right?
Right. And the thing is, last year was out of control. And it's not like it was so like random that this year they weren't. It's just they happened sooner and on a much larger scale than last year. So what don't you realize that next year it's just going to be bigger and worse? I I think that just brings me back to the idea that people think that it's a cycle and it's just going to dial back gradually. And then it may, it's just part of the natural occurrence of the climate.
Yeah. Yeah, like the media has done a pretty good job of falsely disclaiming that we're going into a grand solar minimum. And if you look at a grand solar minimum, it's like a negative point, I think 0.02. So it's very minimal. Yeah, there can
Right.
be a cooling effect, but at this point, when we're over, we're probably about 2.3 C above the 1750 baseline, and a 0.2. If we get a 0.2 cooling effect, it really
Still
doesn't.
means we're far too above what it should be.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Which
It
also
doesn't.
means even if it dials back 0.2, it's going to go up another one on the next cycle. So it's
It doesn't extinct all the animals. That we extinct
no,
100
no.
or species 150 to 200 times a day. It doesn't unextinct those species, right? It's still we're still going totally off the charts on the most horrifying ends.
Yeah,
It's it's gnarly. And I don't have you looked at Sam Karana's recent thing about being going to like
by
18C by
2026.
2026.
Yeah, yeah. Where I posted that, and I just posted one that he posted about jet streams, how they're broken. Like they've broken off into these 5 jet streams, and that's why you're seeing, the weather that you're seeing, and it's only going to get worse. Like you can't even
Right.
imagine how
Yeah.
much worse.
Yeah.
I posted
At
that.
this point, the planet's literally broken right now
Well, I mean,
in
the thing
real
I
time.
see is like even out of computer simulations, like I think it's so unprecedented that anything's possible at this point, and it's not in a good trend. Like unpredictably bad. It's still going to be bad, but we have no idea to the magnitude of how bad it really could get. So,
Yeah.
I posted on my Snapchat because I don't post any of this stuff too many places. I kind of just drop it here, drop it there. And I posted it on Snapchat where I have a way smaller audience. And a girl wrote back, she's like, well, break this down in like stupid people terms. Like, what does that mean for us? And I'm like, well, I kind of laid out, I was like, I'm really not sure you want to go down this rabbit hole, but if you do, Google blue ocean event, permafrost methane pockets, feedback loops, and I forget the other. Basically, I named a few that you could look up to really get a quick overview of where things are headed. And she's like, and then I kind of went into further detail about what those meant. And she's like, well, why? That's crazy. Like, why isn't this talked about in the news? And I'm like, first off, if they did talk about it in the news, like think of tomorrow, all of a sudden, all the news, like, all right, everyone, like, honestly, the world's going to basically in the next year is going to be burnt to a crisp. People would go ape shit. Like people would not be able to manage they wouldn't be able to handle it. So for me, I think that's why a lot of it's being withheld, not only to keep the gears lubricated and the motor going of, the capitalist system,
Oh yeah, that's
but also I think of like, we've kind of already had a small taste of what, lifestyle disruption feels like over the past year or year and a half. And people didn't take that very well. They bought all the toilet paper. So if you tell them that the world's ending within the next couple of years, like, I can't even imagine what grocery stores and just how people would react. So I kind of am thankful for the most part that the media is not honest, because if it's irreversible, why tell everyone like, hey, everyone, you're doomed. Like, enjoy your day. I don't think it would go over well. I don't want to experience that, not yet anyway. Because at some point they are going to have to be like, well, like, and they're talking about like, has climate change reached its tipping point? That's being talked about in mainstream media now. Yeah, I watched a PBS special on it, and they're kind of getting to the point where obviously we can't ignore these massive wildfires. What is it, 80 wildfires in 13 states, and one wildfire alone in Oregon is the size of New York. So if you can't,
Canada,
it's going to get so much to the point that you can't ignore it, then we have to start, going into deep. And they're still not honest about it, because now they're like, what precautions can we take to slow this down? Like, they're not being honest there. And to me, that
Siberian wildfires burned all year last year.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. The Siberian, that's no wonder Canada's on fire.
The peat moss fires or something like that, like under the ground.
Oh, that's nuts. I've never even heard of that until
it's causing the land masses to sink. They're dropping because the ground underneath is on fire and melting.
Sure. Yep.
Canada had an entire city burned to the ground, 90% of it.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it.
Yep. Lighten. And kind of a joke name, but yeah, Lighten lit up and burnt down. That's I'm not trying to be funny.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah. Because that's horrifying. I mean, no disrespect.
That shit is happening. So at some point they're gonna have to be a little more truthful about what's going on and why it's going on, and people, whether or not they want to believe that that's reality. Like we said before, at some point you're going to open the front door and realize it's fucking bad everywhere, and it's going to be undeniable.
I'm truly waiting for our taste here in the Atlanta, Georgia area, because we've been so lucky. We've had rains. We haven't been flooded. We haven't had major storms. I mean, it's been so. I'm surrounded by all these people at when I go to announce a motocross race or going to work every day, surrounded by all these people that have no idea. They don't know that fucking Canada's burning. They don't know the West Coast is burning. They don't care because it's not here.
Right.
And they don't know. They probably don't know somebody that lives there. To even it's.
Which is why people don't care if little kids in Yemen, however you pronounce it, I probably mispronounce it, but are getting bombed and shelled, or Palestine's getting destroyed by Israel because
I know
they threw a couple shitty little rockets and Israel just decided to fucking annihilate them. Like, they don't, whether or not they even know that shit's happening, they wouldn't even side with the people that are suffering the most, because they're the ones painted as the enemy. So
they side with the media, and the media is always going to side to the rich, and and portray the rich are being attacked.
Yeah. I'm sure, and no one deserves to suffer or die. Like, I think in one case, one Israeli house got bombed and a child died or something, which is terrible. But then they turn around and they fucking level just entire communities. Yeah. And then you're wondering, like, why would that create conflict? Why would they retaliate? And then it's just and it kind of I've talked to one of my friends that's from the San Francisco area, and in the projects, and it kind of reminds me of like streets that have beefs with other, basically gangs that have gang problems or problems with other gangs that are literally on the next block over. One family, one person kills some person, and then they retaliate, and then it's just a constant cycle of back and forth, years of this generational violence because they were pitted against each other. And it kind of, it's like a global problem on a different, I know, smaller scale. But a lot of people don't, any of this stuff exists because it's either, well, that's poor people. That doesn't even affect me. It's not a problem for me.
Yep. White
Or it'll
privilege.
never affect me altogether. So I don't even have to worry about its existence.
Yep. Exactly.
And it really, I think it just comes down to a lack of empathy. There's just not a lot of empathy.
You're right. Yeah, there's the empathy. Perhaps, and I don't know too much of the science behind this, so I won't claim anything here. But I think we are mostly pretty empathetic people because, well, when we have a child, that child is for 9 months can't do anything. You have to wipe its ass. You have to feed it. You have to literally make it live.
All right.
And only until very much longer process of that. So think about if you're the first Homo sapien and you find a girl and you're like, woo, that was fun, woo. And then 9 months later you get a kid and you're like, oh, what the fuck do we do with this? And you figure out how to titty feed it and you figure out how to like, okay, well, she's got to do a lot of work with that and I've got to do a lot more to maintain habitat for us so that we're warm and cool and comfortable, in all the different seasons and whatnot. Well, at what point does it just get to where we're so disconnected from the reality of survival that we don't care about shit and we're just like, yeah, we gotta bomb that over there. We gotta annihilate all that over there, and we gotta, kill all the animals too.
Right. Kill them and fucking hold their heads up for a Facebook photo. Fucking,
Yeah.
I shot this deer from like 100 yards away with a rifle, like, which I'm not against hunting. Yeah, I'm not like a vegan or anything, but
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're that proud about it, like, you have to have dropped out of a tree and slit its throat with a knife and put up a fight with this animal. But if you fucking, with your scope that's like within a millimeter of accuracy and a camouflage blind like some fucking coward, shot this animal and that's your trophy, like you're so proud of it with your state-of-the-art weapon.
Yeah.
To me,
and what's even worse is like trophy hunters who kill stuff that's not even for food.
not
It's
even
just
eating.
like,
Just
I
gut
love
it.
I love lions. That's why I like to hunt them and kill them.
Yeah, I'm gonna gut it and stuff it and put it in my living room because I'm just that awesome. I'm that much higher on the chain of life that and I think it's just a different breed of people. Like you just have to be have a different mind. And I was raised, so you can't even say it's like, oh, you're just a product of your environment and it's generational.
Right.
Like I think some people are just wired different because I was raised in a family where like you would take pictures with the deer you shot. And to me, that's always been like, that's fucking weird. Sorry. Like that's some psychopath shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right, man. You're right.
By saying that, but it doesn't sit well with me.
I'm not a vegan either, and I'm totally cool with, hey, if you're hungry, catch a fish, clean it. I've done that with a fish, and I learned that that's a lot of fucking work, and I'd rather just eat a plant. But I'm not a vegan because I can also I'm busy and I have jobs, multiple jobs, and there's a Wendy's on.
That food source exists already somewhere else. I can go and get a Subway sub. I don't have to go kill something that was just going on its day. Yeah, plus I don't like gutting things. Like I can't hang something by its leg and rip its skin off and cut it all up. Like that's gross. That's just not. And I understand somebody had to do that in order for me to enjoy my steak. But if there ever comes a day where I have to do that, I'll pass. I'll eat a plant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too much guilt. Like I would just feel like I can't kill an animal. I fucking catch bugs in the house in a cup and release them outside. I'm not trying to disrupt anything. Like I'm coexisting with. I don't feel like I'm entitled to The only thing I'll like deliberately kill is a mosquito, a tick, things that are like
Yeah.
are just a nuisance and bother me and are also carriers of disease. Like those are things I have problems with.
Yeah.
Spiders eat mosquitoes. They're my teammate. Like I'm not trying to disrupt the chain of life.
Yeah, we don't even really, if we have company coming over, we might cob the house, but other than that, we're like, yeah, you're good, man. You'll catch some, and that's good.
Exactly.
Eat and
I'm
survive,
fucking
and
showering and a little spider falls down. I'm gonna help him up and get him out of the shower. I'm not washing him down the drain.
yeah, yeah. It's, um, yeah, if only people had that mindset. Instead, we sprayed Roundup on everything. Um,
I see a bug, I'll just smash it for the fucking sake of it. There's a bug
yeah,
dead.
I
Like,
own you.
it literally takes 10 seconds to scoop it in a cup and throw it out the window. And then it can go live outside where it belongs.
Yeah,
Doing it.
and maybe a bird will eat it. And that bird will
Yeah.
have a meal, or you know, yeah. Everything that's like, when we do salads, all of our scrappings, just go out the door because it's natural, right? We don't
Needs a
throw.
skunk or a possum or whatever, a raccoon.
Yeah, yeah, and possums, man, they eat like they really,
Ticks.
really take control over
They eat
over their.
millions of ticks. I don't know if you know that, but possums eat ticks like no other animal.
I Yeah,
Ticks are out of control this year. Speaking of possum, I saw a girl on my Snapchat at one point. They like cornered a possum in their garage, and I'm assuming they ended up killing it. I'm like, why didn't you? So I wrote her. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why did you kill that thing? And we just had a short exchange where she was like, well, fuck off. Like I'm like, possums eat ticks. They're needed. But it's
and
just
they're
an example. Like a possum is the equivalent of a bug to you. You just smash it, fucking kill it. Or I know people that would deliberately hit animals in the road. Like I swear to God, if I
yeah.
ever caught someone hitting a cat, I might as well serve a life sentence because I'm gonna hunt you down. Like you don't fucking kill animals like that for no reason. Out of just like sheer enjoyment from smashing something and it lived all the way up until that point. And then you, this entitled human, just had to come along and enforce your authority over something and then just go upon your day. And that thing's just gutted, smashed in the road. That shit that does not sit well with me. It disgusts me. And I know people like that.
Yeah. My thing is turtles, man. When I see a turtle in the road, I don't see it much anymore. But when I see a turtle in the road, I without creating a traffic accident,
Right.
pull off and all that shit. I'm not an idiot that like just slams on the brake in the middle of the road and expects everyone else
Right.
to figure it out. But you have to be careful and not get hit, not get run over. But when I
Right.
see a turtle, man, it's just like I snap, and
Do
um,
your part for
they're usually already hit. Because
actually
if they still look, rounded, uh, once I if they're in the road, they're probably hit. But
right.
if they're not, then you carry them to the
The way
to
they're
the
going.
side they're facing.
Right. Otherwise, they're gonna go right. Because actually, just yesterday, I go on a bike ride. I do it. I've been biking like every day, and then down one of the roads is a couple ponds. There's like a pond on the farm, and I guess I found out a guy has a pond in his backyard. Well, a car went around me, and it went around something, and then as I got closer, I realized, oh, that's a turtle, just about to get into the road. So he's just about to, or she is just about to head across the road. So it turns out it was like a snapping turtle, probably about a foot wide. I thought it was a big snapping turtle. Apparently not. I'm poking at it. Like I do not like touching wild animal, or at least
It's probably a
on the
common
opposite.
snapping
I don't like
turtle that's about as big
reptiles
as
or
they get.
so I didn't know what to do, and I'm like, I called my dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, can you bring like a flat shovel so we can pick this snapping turtle up, move it across the road? And as I'm poking at it because that thing's jumping at me. I was trying to pick it up, but it was leaping toward me. And the guy who lives down the road, he starts wandering over. He's like, hey, it's a snapping turtle, right? I'm like, yep. He's like, I figured so, the way that you were, jumping away from it. And he says he just does that all the time. They go back and forth between this pond. And he's like, that's actually a really small one. He sees them 3 times the size go across the road. And he brought up the same point. I was aware of it too. You never put them in the opposite, the closest way off. Any way they're going, just help them out, take them further across. And he walked over to it, grabbed it by its tail and carried it. Thing was like trying to bite him the whole time. And he dropped it over the opposite side of the road and did his part. But I don't know. I just thought it was really cool that this guy.
The tail is really there's a lot of leverage.
Yeah,
so they can really injure themselves.
I saw like it looked like if he wasn't holding it as far off as he was, that thing it could have gotten a hold of him. Plus, is that bad for their tail?
Yeah, it's bad because it's part of their spinal cord.
Okay,
so it's a lot of trauma as they're trying to wiggle because they're in panic mode.
Right.
What you want to do is if you can get them above the rear legs, kind of pick them up by the shell. You can see my hands try to pick them up.
Yeah.
By the
That's
rear
kind of what I tried to do, and I touched it. I was like, oh, it's slimy.
They're well, and when they're that big, they're heavy too. So you're trying to pick them up in that way. All that forward weight is a lot of leverage to try to pick up against. So it is hard to do that, but that's really the safest way to, get them along.
Carry them by the shell. I mean, that's what I was trying. I tried to grab it by the back sides, and it was like jumping and turning. I was like, I'm not trying to. That thing was pit.
Was his shell smooth or was it ridged?
It was ridged.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an alligator snapper.
It looked like a dinosaur. It was crazy looking.
So the ridged shell is an alligator snapper. So they do get big. Alligator snappers are big turtles. Specimens are still being found with Civil War shells in their shell.
Oh wow! So they live a long time. In other words,
hundreds of years. They're literally one of our North American dinosaur animals.
I was gonna say that's why it looks like a dinosaur. That was crazy looking.
Yeah, and the common snappers have a smooth shell. They're big also, but they don't get as big as a alligator snapper. An alligator snapper can easily fill like a 50-gallon tub. And when I say fill a 50-gallon tub, I mean that's not something they can live in. That's something that you can like put it in.
The size of their body is that big.
Carry the tub safely. Alligator snappers can be very, very large. They can weigh probably 100, maybe even 200 pounds as an adult, and live 100 years, at least a couple of years. Yeah, very very fascinating animal. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I have appreciation for all wildlife and nature, and I don't know. I have just a smidgen of Native American blood, so I don't know if I can attribute my appreciation to the homeland or something. I don't know. It's just I always feel connected to it. It brings me peace, and that's why I like going for walks and bike rides, and just I'd much rather ride the bike in the country than go in the city and be around all the cars and overpopulation and development. I appreciate the nature, which I think, as you said, if more people had that mindset, maybe we wouldn't be as bad of a shape as we are at this point, where things are headed.
Yeah. We could have at least, if we would have, even if we could go back to 1930 and just kind of slow things down and go, well, just back it down and let's just be honest and stop having so many. Back it down, and then we could have prolonged all of this. But pretty much, from my research anyway, pretty much after 1930, anything we've done is just accelerated our demise.
Right, full speed ahead.
Yeah, and with capitalism, and we just kept on, still pedal to the metal, and we've seen now that it'll be pedal to the metal until every little area is wiped out. There's no more,
Yeah,
this
so
place got flooded or wiped out by a storm,
right.
or we depleted, we dropped depleted uranium bombs all over the planet for over 20 years. We've nuked the planet so many times. Fukushima is an extinction level event that
Oh, you're talking about from the tsunami
yeah, yeah,
where it's just like spewing toxic water that ends up in, don't they, isn't some
yeah.
of the water ending up in Washington, like on that
Fish
coastline?
and the wildlife are all affected, and um,
And that
you
was
know
heavily downplayed. Like
yeah,
they
yeah.
not being honest about how the severity of that is. And that's
uh,
just one example, like one case.
One of 450 that we're about to
I mean, it's kind of amazing that
use.
we made it as far as we have, given the magnitude of how many things like that have happened. Like it shows how resilient the planet has been.
Yep, I believe it's still going on. I can't believe it. And,
It is what it is. It's kind of
we're
the way.
we're almost there.
Fuck. It is what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. Um, what about exit plans? What do you how are you planning, like knowing what's coming? Because obviously knowing what's coming, you kind of got to deal with reality. And how are you dealing with what you're due to, because
Potentially.
obviously you don't want to suffer, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably one of those uh not I'm not going to say hopium, but or unrealistic expectations, kind of just to see how resilient the human body really is, see how far it can make it. Really, it's kind of like I've mentioned before, I'm in my workshop with no air conditioning. It gets up to 100 degrees, and that's really like nothing compared to what's coming. But just
You're already acclimating yourself, right?
yeah, I don't. I mean, honestly, if we're talking exit plan, and let's say I open the door and it's 175 degrees out, and it's like, well, I'm not going out there. Like that's just not feasible. Like I might try to ride a week of it out, but obviously, it's not going to go dial back at all. I mean, my exit plan would probably be, some heavy sleeping pills and a gas generator, and basically fall asleep and make sure there's enough carbon monoxide that I don't wake up, which is like that's pretty grim, pretty sad, you know, way to view things. But I don't want to like jump the gun and just do it because I'm afraid of what's to come. Like I want to be in the midst of like everyone has no choice. Like we're all fucked, and
Right.
there's
Oh yeah.
no there's no because I wouldn't. Here's the thing: it would suck. I open the door, it's 150 out, and I'm oh my god, fuck. I take my exit plan, and then like a week later, it's back to 80 degrees for a month. I'd rather ride out as long as I possibly can until it's like this is not. There's no more dialing back. There's no more waves of this. It's just like if the methane pops and everything goes up 75 degrees, and all of a sudden it's 175 degrees outside. Like I don't think that even a basement, I'd imagine you're going to be cooking in your basement because that's where I'm familiar with. Like when it is really hot in Michigan, 100 and plus degrees, and it's intolerable to be upstairs if there's no air conditioning. You go in the basement and it feels like it's air conditioned. So that's like that's what I'm accustomed to. That's what we've always done. Like I grew up without air conditioning, so anytime it was crazy hot, you just go in the basement and wait until it cooled down to be back upstairs again. But I imagine at some point, ground temps get so hot that the basement's no longer that little safe haven. So kind of
Yeah.
just kind of waiting to see when that happens and play it. I'm playing it by ear. That's kind of my theory or my plan anyway.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean that's the right plan. I think we all, are kind of in that phase. I like to refer it to as like feel like I'm kind of a sitting duck because I know it's coming. But today, I went to work. I'm going to get paid for that.
You can still
Because
buy food with that.
temperature wasn't, I can go to Wendy's or order pizza.
Right.
Um, you
That
know,
still exists. So until like that whole supply chain is disrupted, and then it's like, fuck, I've got a box of cornmeal left. Like that's when shit starts getting grim. And if the pizza shop doesn't open back up, and it's unlikely that it ever will, then like maybe that's time to start considering your exit plan. But until then, I'm not encouraging anyone to just be like, like panic mode and just peace out. Unless that's like, I'm also all for anyone doing whatever it is they want to do. Like,
right,
whatever,
right. Yeah, yeah. Your body, your choice, right? Like whatever.
which they're totally against, because how are you going to keep paying taxes if you're not around? So like, we need you. We can't have you. We can't have you cashing out on life insurance. So we need you to keep this engine going. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so crazy, man. Dude, I suggest, I like to tell people because people that know and understand, I don't want them to have to suffer or like try to like figure out something last minute and have that
Right.
go wrong, and then you
Or
wind
like,
up,
yeah, like back
you know,
out and then get vegetable, or suffer
yeah,
even longer because
yeah. Um,
right.
there's a if you type in right www.right to the number 2.org, you get the rebreather, and that's what um a lot of people that I talk to have all been on this path of like how to limit our suffering at the end when it's time, and it looks pretty good. It's pretty
Are there,
simple. It's
this is
euphoric,
not like to
feels
be,
good.
are there any reviews of this? Because obviously the people who have made use of them can't like write an honest product review, because I would assume the reason why there are no bad reviews is because they work well. That would be my guess.
Yeah, and it comes from there's a few exit groups on the web,
Hmm.
and I forget the right now, I forget the group that, but it's a very well known um you know basically right to die organization that um, Exit International is the site, and that's something that they recommend. So yeah, Exit International is a really good resource for people to look up that don't want to suffer, that that know what's coming, and whether they're very old and very sick, or
Right. I'm sure it could be even
or
people that are terminally ill already. So it's not something that's just for the end of times kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, because that's, I mean, obviously you know, we're not the first generation to die and not want to, knowing we're dying and not want to suffer, because people have been sick for years and not wanted to suffer. So yeah, Exit International is very legit, and they promote known or whatever, and it is legit because I actually bought the product and received it and went through it. And, I can at least say that much. You're
You've
gonna
made
get you're gonna
yours
get
looks
what you pay for as long as global shipping.
it's a quality product built well.
Yeah, yeah,
That's good. But yeah, I mean, I just hope everyone you stick around as long as possible. Like unless you're suffering, I'd understand. And I mean, I'm sure that doesn't even mean just physical. People suffer mentally too. So
sure, yeah, yeah. I mean, people right now, people are, friends and family of ours are losing habitat out west, with the fires and the heat waves. And it's all it's it's coming. we're
Well,
all
I mean, someone posts like wildfire, because I have friends that live in Nevada, so they're all I mean, I've been in Nevada, stayed there while there were wildfires. Like makes beautiful sunsets. Like the clouds are fucking crazy. Like actually, even right now, even where we live, it's the sun at sunset looks great. Like it's all orange and glowing. You can like look right at it. It doesn't burn your eyes. It's pretty unique and beautiful. But when people post that stuff, I'm like, God. And part of me wants to be like, man, this isn't even the beginning of it. Like you're hopeful this wildfire stops. Like, man, I just hope that you guys. I hope my friends don't stick around in those areas too long. Unfortunately, a lot of those places are. It's such the drought is such long running. It's like, and then you got the storms that come along with it. It all takes is a small lightning storm to just keep that shit burning longer and longer. I guess fortunately, at some point, once it's burnt once, it can't continue burning. So, from my understanding anyway, like when a forest fire is concluded, can lightning still burn a forest further than it's already burned? It's not something I'm not really. That's the thing. I mean, I've seen like when you drive through the mountains, you can see where there have been forest fires. Just a hillside of black trees. But I'm not sure if they can, get a tree that's already been burn more.
your audio kind of went out. I think maybe a battery died or something.
Oh, can you not hear me? It might be my.
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're not projected. So I think something definitely changed with your audio.
Yeah, my battery's good. Could be the my data connection's not the best out here.
Okay. Yeah.
It might be yours because you're kind of cutting in and out. How's your connection?
Yeah, it seems good. It seems good.
Huh.
Your audio just it died out, so it sounds like you're talking from afar.
Weird. Let me one second. I'm gonna mute my mic and then turn it back on and see if maybe anything.
It's still the same. Yeah.
Should what can we do here? Try to let's see. I don't know. It's still not working.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same. It's different. It's a little lower too, but different.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't do anything different. My battery is still full and oh, that's why. Is it better now?
Oh, it's the same.
My phone's overheating.
Oh, okay. That's why. Yeah,
That's what happened. They stopped working.
that makes sense.
Is it
yeah, it's still the same.
a second here? We'll see maybe if I cool it with a water bottle. Any luck? Any better? Or is it still messed up?
Yeah, it's the same. You're audible. It's just not as good. And but
well, should we wrap it up since my phone decided to?
yeah, I was just gonna say if there's anything else, ask if there's anything else we didn't talk about that you wanted to hit on.
I feel like most of the stuff I thought about touching base on, I think we covered most of it.
Okay, all right,
How about you?
dude. It's been amazing for me to reconnect with you over the years and have this conversation. As we know, it's heavy. It's really heavy, right? we're talking about the end of all life on Earth. What a fucking mind fuck, right? What a shit show.
Is my audio any better yet? Because yours is better. Is mine still messed up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It,
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't know. I honestly thought maybe this would happen in my lifetime, so maybe that's why I'm not overly surprised. I kind of just maybe, I don't know. I just felt like that's something that could happen. So I'm not in utter shock that that's where things are going. So
yeah, like you didn't have kids. You knew about it, right? You saw, you know.
well, I think the thing about kids was not even just the environment. That was like our government and like the wars and just how messed up everything was. I'm like, I don't need to bring someone into all of this. There's no, like, why would I punish someone like that?
Exactly. And it also comes, you know, the destruction of our habitat. So it's kind of goes hand in hand. Even it's been really cool to reconnect with you again and have this discussion. It means the world to me because you know, in me being the journalist that I tried to be, I've always been told I was wrong, I was stupid. On DMX's radio, I never really had a voice that I wanted to, and that was frustrating. So I'm glad that I've found a few people that still that are into this information and live it and are open and honest about it, right? So really appreciate that, man.
Well,
Really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you having me on. And can you hear me at all? Is the
Oh,
audio
yeah,
coming?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I appreciate you having me on and giving me a chance to get on your platform and converse back and forth. And it's been awesome keeping in touch. You know, that's one thing about the internet. It gave me a career. It helped me make lasting friendships with people that I otherwise would have never met. And you know, we probably have known each other for almost 20 years at least. So I mean, that's 2 decades that have passed by that we managed to keep in contact with. I think the last time I saw you in person was Cincinnati IFMA. We were
Oh, okay. Yep.
we were bobsledding with gear bags in the back of the arena.
Oh, there
That's
was Justin Miller.
Yep, that was a long time ago. That was probably 20 years ago.
That's right. You took the picture of me sliding down that incline.
Yep.
It's on my like Yahoo email, I think.
Okay, nice. Yeah, ended up back in Cincinnati. It's been some years, but I went by that arena. The memories of that came back to me because I saw that sloped concrete. I was like, that's pretty cool. I forget what we call it. Was it urban bobsledding?
Yeah,
Something like
urban sledding or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
the last time I've seen you in person, I believe. So it's been a long time.
Yeah. Okay. That that makes sense. Yeah, that's about right. Damn, dude. That's a funny memory. That I had a good time that night. Yeah, Cincinnati. There was a dude that I wasn't paid to go to that event. It was a dude that liked Moto and
Uh-huh.
liked my paper, and he worked at the airline. He worked for Delta, I think. He was like, "Hey, I'll fly you up. You know, get your press pass and get me a press pass. I
Right.
want to go to
Nice.
this event, you know." And so he did. He hooked me up a couple of times.
I
Um,
wonder, is that the first time that we made like a connection journalistically for me to send you photos?
no, we knew each other
Or
before that.
was that before, like from the outdoor nationals and that kind of thing? Because I'm pretty sure I met you at outdoor nationals.
I was thinking I met you at
Maybe gravity games?
Baltimore IFMA. Travis was riding that night. Chris Tedesco.
No,
I met
I
Chris
wasn't.
Chris
I was not.
Tedesco weren't at that event.
Mm-mm. Did you went to outdoor nationals too, right? You went to a few outdoor nationals?
Yeah, yeah, like Troy, Ohio would have
Oh
been.
yeah, I definitely
Uh,
met you at Troy, Ohio then. That would have
uh,
been like 2001 or something.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I think it was even before.
Maybe in the 90s, 98,
What was
99.
the first freestyle contest you shot?
That was probably 2002. No, 2001, probably.
Really? I thought you
Yeah,
were before. I was thinking you were before then.
because I graduated high school in 99. So everything came after that. So it could have been 2000 was probably my first freestyle contest that I photographed.
Do you remember where it was?
Auburn Hills, probably.
Yeah, I didn't go to
Okay.
any of those. Yeah.
I don't
I
know, but
swear I
I
met you
think
at a.
I think the Troy National, that would have been early 2000s, maybe even in the 90s that I met you.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I was shooting outdoor nationals when I was still in high school.
Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's funny, dude. I thought we met at a freestyle contest, but
That's what
yeah,
happens when you know someone for over 20 years. The
I
memories blend
yeah.
together. You know? And my memory is not as sharp as it used to be.
Mine is totally gone. I only remember. I remember like more climate stuff and historic history and stuff. But like, when I was doing practice track and BMX's radio, I would remember who won Pontiac in 1985. I
Yeah,
would have just been able, oh, so and so that year. Oh, that dude got third that year at Pontiac or whatever. I can watch a race now, and I can't remember 30 minutes later who was top three.
which probably has to do with what information you feel is most important. Back then that your whole life revolved around moto, so it was easy to remember all those details. And
Yeah,
now
I
you're
just
kind of more focused on information that matters. So
didn't realize it.
it's easier to absorb knowledge that has some meaning to it.
Yeah, you're right. Depending on what you're into and your age,
Yep.
um, you know, is how much you absorb of it.
Well, man, it was awesome being on the show. I was kind of worried going into it. I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna it might be like a 15-minute conversation and just kind of peter out. I don't know how interesting it could get. But yeah, it was awesome. It went by quick, and I appreciate you having me on, and it was fun to talk about, as fun as it can be to talk about global annihilation. And that's all we can do at this point is laugh. Like, you can't dwell on. I guess my closing note is like, you got to find the positivity in what time we have left, and you got to ignore the bullshit because there's way more bullshit than there is positivity. So you got to find shit. You got to find stuff that makes you happy. So if it's as simple as going for a drive and watching the sunset, do that. Like, just try to fill your life with as many things that bring positivity to what time you have left. Because we could have a year. This is extreme. We could have 5 years left. But if we spend all of our time nitpicking and being negative about that time, like, that's no way to. And we could have a week left. But I'd rather spend that week, or I'd rather spend what remaining time we have left enriching what you know what positivity and beneficial stuff that I can have for myself.
Yeah, yeah, and dude, I can promise you for the 184 subscribers we have. I think I think this chat has enriched 184 people,
Hey,
maybe more, hopefully.
even if it's enriched one, it's better than none. So
Yeah, it's something, right?
yeah,
That's really cool, man. That's really cool, dude. I if we have time, I want you back. I want to talk to you again, and I always, offer
yeah,
that.
I'd be
You know,
happy to. I'm sure between now and whatever next time I come on, there will be some interesting current events and climate related events that we can discuss or chop it up about. Because yeah, I mean, as rapidly as everything is declining and crazy events that are taking place, be plenty of stuff to discuss.
yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Thank you so much, dude.
You're
Thanks for
welcome,
being
man.
on channel, and thank you for everything that you gave me and your help with practice track. Because when I was doing my paper, it was people like you and Dustin Miller, who were real anti-war people, who really, really kept me going and really kept me driving to try to put out another issue. And
Anytime, man. You're welcome. I'm just glad to be a part of it, and just like this, glad to be a part of anything you're working on and putting together. So yeah, it's been a pleasure.
thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome, Joey.
Good night, buddy. Have a good
Good
night,
night, man.
man.
You
Take
too.
care.
I'm about
We'll
to go on a
talk
bike
soon.
ride.
Yeah.